Yo, so today I'm gonna go over why shooting in the field and making treks in a national forest to shoot your rifle are super important for actually hunting. Now, I'm all about going to the range, figuring out your rifle, like zeroing it, like having it on a nice, stable platform to get good data for your, different ammo. But all that shit has to transfer to the mountains. So today I got my 300 Win Mag. It's a Savage. Pretty new build. I'm working on finally dialing it in. I got it pretty much zeroed. But I'm going to go over a couple tips and tricks today on how to apply all your skills at the range to a national forest. So I'm out here in Colorado. I'm about to hump it up, shoot around 8,500 feet because that's where I'm hunting at, and really getting it dialed in. And another thing that's important is the wind. So getting good at listening to the wind and figuring out wind is going to really make or break you. You know, there's an old saying, if it wasn't for wind, anyone could be a sniper. You know, and that's true for hunters as well. So I'm going to be hiking up this way. I'm going to break it down in more detail once I get up there. All right, guys, made it up here. I got my setup going. Got my spotting scope. Got my fucking rangefinder. But yeah, just so you guys can get an idea of like what we're shooting into. I'm shooting slightly uphill, and basic openings, rifle territory. You know, this isn't bow hunting. I got a 300 Win Mag, so I'm not going to be pushing through much thick timber. But yeah, it's 100 yards. I'm just gonna quickly make sure that she's dialed in, and then we're gonna shoot out to 300. So yeah, I'll fill you guys in on how we do that. All right, so check this out. I got a pretty strong 90-degree crosswind. So it's a 9 o'clock wind, and since I can hear it, I can visibly hear the wind blowing. I know it's above 10 miles per hour. So I'm going to use 10 miles per hour to gauge as my windage at 100 yards. So that's how we do it, guys. You gotta, if you can listen and hear that wind, it's at least 10 miles an hour. If it's whipping even harder than that, like it's gusting, that's when you're pushing 20 mile an hour. And in my opinion, and ethical reasons, like past 200, I wouldn't even pull that shot, man. You got to really know what you're doing. And the crazy thing is, as you can look up, it could be windy down here, and then maybe on the like up past in some of those timbers, it might not even be windy, and that's the risk that you run shooting in the mountains at long distance, is those crosswinds. So just to give you an idea, always roll with this. That way you can get the direction of that wind. And in my experience, especially rifle season hunts, October, November, sometimes even late season like January, it's typically windy. You know what I mean? And so don't expect it to be like perfectly calm. Know how to read wind and adjust for it. And that's why I like shooting here. And sometimes I'll just like listen to wind and I'll aim dead center just to see where my bullet hits, and it's amazing. You'll be like, whoa, that's, 3 or 4 inches at 100 or 200 yards is a lot, but remember that it magnifies the further you go. So yeah, if your bullet gets blown, 2 inches at 200 yards, then like at 400 it'll be double, and like so on. So just always know that wind and know how to account for it in your shots. So now that she's ready to go at 100, I'm gonna pack up and go a little bit further. So let me just kind of see if I could zoom in. Oh no, that didn't work, sorry. Yo, so I also brought my 308. And the reason why I brought it, I wanted to highlight in this video for you guys, is the importance of a muzzle brake, or the benefits of it. So I haven't fully built out this 300 Win Mag. So hopefully we get one on here pretty soon, but it has a threaded barrel, so all I need to do is just get one, but it really takes off the recoil. So I just finished zeroing the 300. She's on point. And every time you shoot a rifle without a muzzle brake, like you basically lose sight picture. Like your eye relief goes to shit, and like you have to like refocus back in on the crosshair. So it's so much harder for a follow-up shot. So it's not just about like comfort and like having less recoil on your shoulder. It's so that you can like quickly get back on target after you reload. So for instance, like my 308 with that, triple baffle muzzle brake, it's literally designed to shoot all of the recoil out to the sides. I could like literally shoot and then like maintain my sight picture, keep my crosshairs there. So I instantly can like rack another one and boom, follow up, you know? Whereas with the 300 Win Mag, yes, it has more recoil, but with the butt plate, it doesn't hurt. Like, it's not for comfort. It's just so that I can get back on target super quick, you know? And nowadays, most barrels come threaded. So I always recommend getting one, you know? And yes, it'll save your shoulder, but more importantly, follow-up shots, man. And a lot of times, especially with copper ammo, you know, if you get a complete pass-through in the double lung, you can quickly follow up with a shoulder shot to just like make it collapse, you know, or vice versa. Let's say you hit the shoulder, bullet passes through, and it's a big bull elk, and it's still kind of stumbling, and then boom, just put another one, double lung, make it clean. And again, ethically, it ends the suffering of the animal quicker, you know. So that's like almost your responsibility to have a quick follow-up, is in case it's still kicking, you can, you know, make it end real quick. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that for you guys. Importance of muzzle brakes. If you don't have one, I recommend getting one. If you're about to buy a rifle, try and find one with a threaded barrel. That way you don't have to pay a gunsmith to do it for you. All right, so here I am at my setup. Got my windage, got my range, and got my target set up at 300. So I'm gonna try my best to zoom in, but yeah, you guys can get an idea. So shooting uphill, right, 8,600 feet. I took the wind up there, I took it down here, it's about the same. So we still got that 90-degree crosswind. So that means we give it full value for windage. Yo, so got her dialed in at 300, and what I'm gonna go over next is why you have to shoot where you're gonna hunt, and every rifle is a little bit different. So on the back of most ammo, it'll have like, it'll give you a ballistics chart, right? And it's a good starting point, but you need to fine tune it from there. These are typically at sea level, you know what I mean? And we're at 8,500, so that impacts it a lot. And as you notice, I'm shooting uphill, and every rifle has a different barrel length. You know, the atmospheric pressure of your area, it could be different, especially up in the Rockies where it's just totally different. Pressure changes, so when you're hunting in cold ass weather first thing in the morning, you know, the pressure's doing this, you got thermals, everything. So the only real way to get into your rifle is to shoot it. And so a good example is, based on this, it's saying that, you know, at 300 yards my bullet will drop 11.6 inches, and I was hitting bullseyes at 300 with the 2 MOA adjustment, meaning I corrected for 6 inches. So that's way off. You know what I mean? And so if you just buy a box at the Bass Pro Shop or any gun store, show up in the Rocky Mountains and try and hunt with it, you're gonna be way off. You know what I mean? And so if you are hunting out west, or if you're hunting somewhere that has a much different elevation and terrain than your home, make sure you try and get there a day or two early and go sight it in, and don't shoot where you're gonna be hunting. That's a big mistake too. Just bad juju, you know, don't want to do that. So really give it time, and for all you other hunters out there, you know, this is super important to understand your rifle and why you can't just go off of like standard ballistics charts. And this is why I advocate hunting with copper, because copper bullets will punch through that shoulder if it hits scapula, whereas a lead hollow tip will mushroom and just destroy all the meat in that shoulder and probably just wound the animal, especially if it's a bull elk. And so copper ammo will penetrate. High shoulder shot, you know, I've seen it do damage to elk. I used my 308. I got a cow last year, cow elk, with a high shoulder. She went down. She was, you know, took her last breath as I walked up to her. And so yeah, if you utilize copper the right way, you have a really big kill zone. So I'm gonna go up. We're gonna show you guys the groups, 300 yards way up there. And I'll kind of give you guys an idea of the kill zone on an elk. The final reason why it's important to come shoot in the mountains, so you can hump up in the mountains. Walking 300 yards to get my target is tough, you know, get out of breath, getting used to it, but that conditioning is super important. So it looks all pretty, looks nice out, but I'm walking up a steep incline, you know what I mean? That's behind me. realistic elk territory. You know, it's early October. So now's the time to really dial in your rifle, dial in your conditioning before the rifle hunts start. And, you know, bow season was badass, a lot of good lessons. But transitioning to rifle season's a new game, you know, so got to make sure you're fit. If you want to go out in the backcountry for elk, and now's the time to do it. So beauty of shooting in the mountains, gets your rifle ready, but more importantly, it gets you ready, because not only do you have to zero in your rifle, you got to zero in your conditioning. All right, so hiked it up here, pretty long distance, but these splatter targets, basically just got on a little stand, a little post like this. Easiest setup if you want to shoot out in the mountains or on public land. And the size of this target, it's I think it's like a 19 or 20 inch diameter. So an elk kill zone is a little bit bigger than this. So basically, yeah, these bullseyes are sweet. That's what we're going for. That's ultimately what we want. But realistically, any of these, even this high one, if I aimed where I'll show you guys in diaphragm, up in that, you know, the like back side of the shoulder in the middle, you're gonna have the most area to kill the animal. So elk is a massive, you know, four-legged ungulate, and if it's broadside like this, where we're talking about is like little back behind the middle of the shoulder in that midline. So even if I aimed here, this 8 inches, I would have gotten a high shoulder shot and like hit the brachial plexus, and it probably would have killed the animal. Like it would have fallen over right away. That would have been like almost a perfect shot. If I hit bullseye, it would have just blasted through the scapula, penetrated the lungs, and then blasted out the other scapula. So even if the animal was still alive, it probably would have like stumbled and like fallen over. And I've seen that too. Cow elk get a copper 30-06 and a little over 200 yards, and it was just a clean, like took her down. She was kicking for 20 seconds or so as we were walking up. By the time we got to her, she was done, you know. If we, let's say the animal's facing this way at these shots on the left, they would have been closer into the shoulder, gone through more meat, and if it didn't completely pass through both, it would have gotten lodged like in the center. And again, having an immobilized elk without one leg, that shoulder's pretty much done. That copper bullet's gonna punch through, and even if it doesn't pass, it'll probably get lodged in the other side shoulder, and it would bleed out pretty soon. It wouldn't make it very far. And just the impact of a bullet hitting that area of the body, it does significant damage. And these ones, if I hit to the right, even if I came a little bit further over here on this side, I would have gotten double lung. I would have still blasted through it. And if I hit low, I would have probably gotten the vitals. So this is the biggest area, that spot. You either hit here and kill it, you hit here, 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 and kill it. But a lot of times if you aim for the heart down low and you hit low, you miss. Or if you hit to the right, you'll hit the guts. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid of that shoulder shot, only if you're using copper ammo. That's the biggest thing. If you have old school Corlock or lead or, you know, ballistic tip, even the high quality Hornady hunting rounds, any lead is gonna destroy the shoulder if you hit it. And that's why people say don't shoot the shoulder, but you have to use copper ammo. That's the key. A lot of good manufacturers out there make it. Hornady has a copper round. So yeah, just be aware that this target is ultimately what we're going for. And if you aim at the right spot, if you know elk anatomy, you have a huge kill zone. So don't think you're messing up. Of course we want here. But yeah, I got these, and this shows you with the wind. So I was aiming dead center before I adjusted, and I was hitting here. This one I pulled the trigger on for sure. And same with this one. Those were just, you know, off shots. But basically the wind blew it, you know, about 4 inches to the left. And then as I adjusted, I overcorrected on a couple of these. But again, that's the beauty of shooting for an elk. You have a huge target. That's why I don't recommend going for the heart, or specifically double lung. You know what I mean? Like if you bring it into that shoulder, and you have a high enough caliber and enough velocity, that copper bullet's going to perform excellent. So the recipe for a kill with copper is velocity and shot placement. So this is just a good idea. So don't stress if you're getting, you know, larger groups. Like, you know, just be aware of elk anatomy, know where you're putting that bullet. And again, that's why follow-up is so key. And that's why that muzzle brake is important, because you blast the animal in that shoulder and it doesn't fall over. It might be kind of stumbling, it's going to be bleeding, rack it, and then boom, take another one and like go for double lung. Just it's almost insurance, you know. It's like when a cop is chasing a vehicle and they shoot out that front tire. Like, even if the car still goes, it's like kind of, you know, an elk that gets shot in the shoulder will potentially keep going, but you got to follow it up. So just be aware that quick reaction times, and this is why we're drilling at elevation, you know what I mean? And especially when your heart rate's up, it's harder to breathe. You got to really get in position. And yeah, so if you're getting groups like this at the range, it's good, you know, awesome work. And just make sure you're coming out to here. And I'll give you an idea, like, check this out. So this is elk country for sure. And these are the beautiful views behind me. And I could go up even further. There's some spots down on this side I go sometimes if I want to shoot out to 400. But yeah, man, it's super dope. Good place to practice your calling too. So make sure you guys are getting out in the field and applying your knowledge at the range to the mountains. I'm going to talk about the difference now between long action and short action, and pros and cons of each. So when it comes to rifle selection, you know, a lot of people get confused and you know, they're like, what caliber should I get? What kind of gun should I get? You know, and it's just like, my opinion, both, and I'll explain why. Like, so these are both 30 caliber bullets. So they have the exact same projectile. It's a 7.62, a 308 bullet, and this is the 308 Win, and this is the 300 Win mag. So as you can see, 308 is a lot. There's less powder. 300 Win mag is a lot bigger. And when you come in to the rifles, short action, the 308, as you can see, is this right here. The chamber is a lot smaller, and so the 300 Win mag is a lot longer. So the bore or the chamber of that rifle is either short or long, you know what I mean? So a shorter bullet is typically a lighter rifle. Like, that means that the barrel doesn't have to be as long to stabilize the smaller bullet. There's less explosion, less powder going off in here, so it can be a lot smaller. So for a backcountry rifle, you know, with a shorter barrel like a 308 or even a 6.5 Creedmoor, if you're, you know, hunting smaller game, like besides elk, even elk, you can still rock those. But for instance, for me, like, this is my deer rifle. I like to hunt deer with this. Like, I could kill deer out to 500 yards, you know, push 650. I've never had to take that shot, but like, I feel confident out to 500. The problem is with copper, remember we talked about velocity is the secret to killing. Past about 450, 500, the 308 just loses gas and starts to lose power. Honestly, it really starts to drop after 300, where the 300 Win mag or any real, you know, long action bullet, you know, even down from the 30-06 up to the 7mm mag or the 7 PRC, any rifle with that long action, long bullet, it's going to maintain proper velocity to kill elk out to like 700-800 yards, right? And so that's not what this has. But for antelope, for hogs, for deer, you know, for cow elk, even bulls, like, you know, you could still hunt, just know your limit. So for bull elk, I would say 350, 400 max on the 308 with a copper bullet. And that bullet's got to be, boom, it's got to be in that kill zone. You don't have much room. It's probably not going to make it through that shoulder, you know. But if you're pushing a 300 Win mag, that shit will punch right through. So optimally, you'd have both. You know, you'd have your elk rifle, your moose, maybe long range mule deer, like if you're out in like Arizona or New Mexico, and like you're in some valleys where you can make those 800-yard shots, you know, like, yeah, that's perfect for mule deer. 308, you know, this is like your does, your bucks, you know, whitetails, like even black bear. Like, you can hunt elk and moose with it, but you got to be super on point, and you don't have much distance. Like, your killing zone is much closer. You have to respect that, because you will lose animals. You know, if you shoot a bull elk in the shoulder at 600, you know, or if you got the wrong ammo and like you hit like one lung or something like that, you're just doing a disservice and disrespect to that animal. So it's like, know your limits and don't exceed them. And then you got to challenge yourself too, because just because on paper your rifle can kill an elk at 400 or 500 doesn't mean you could do it up there. So know your limits for yourself and for your rifle, and look into, you know, short action calibers and long action calibers. So it really depends on your hunting, but for elk, you know, for longer range stuff, I've taken elk with the 308, but if you want to push out a little bit further and have that guarantee, especially with copper, might need a long action. The takeaways from this video are making the time to get out and shoot in the field, learn windage, figure out your rifle specifically, where you're hitting, where those bullets are moving, how elevation is impacting it, deciding whether you want to go into the category of short action or long action. I'm just going to kind of go over a couple more things about that I didn't cover. So with the short action caliber, the bolt is going to be a lot smaller because of that, you know, shorter bullet. It's going to be a lot lighter. So when it's lighter and it has a shorter barrel, you can easily move through thick terrain. Like I could couple it in close, I could move, I could throw it over my shoulder, and it's not going to really get in the way of things. So perfect backcountry rifle. Once you start stepping up into that long action, not only do you have to deal with length, but you got to deal with weight. So bolt is going to be a lot bigger. These are typically a little bit heavier, bigger action, longer barrel, and this doesn't have a muzzle brake, but if I put one on there, you add an inch or two onto that, you know what I mean? So if I'm going through super thick terrain, I got this super long barrel sticking out. I can't really throw it over my shoulder without trying to hit something. You know, if I'm going through thick timber, this is going to be clipping on trees. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to move. Not that you can't take these out in the backcountry, but just be aware of that, you know? And when it comes to copper ammo, in order to get full expansion of that bullet, we need at least 2,000 feet per second. So that's what I want you guys to look up now, is go find some ballistic data, look up your caliber that you hunt with, and look at what distance that bullet falls below 2,000 feet per second. And that number is your max range on elk. And I would honestly say on most other animals too. You know, for deer and, you know, boar and stuff, you could of course have it going a little bit slower, but you still want full expansion on that bullet. So if that bullet is going below 2,000, your kill zone goes like this. Not that it's tiny, but you basically have to hit lung or vitals. That shoulder is out of the game. It's not gonna do any good. That bullet's probably gonna just get lodged in and not fully expand. It can still cause a lot of damage, but the shoulder of an elk is huge. Those guys got a ton of muscle, you know? Even cow elk with their hide and with their thick, broad shoulders, it may not have enough juice to get through. So know your max limits, find out what style of you know, hunting you really prefer, and then narrow down your caliber. Again, I think it's good to have both. And so just emphasize practicing, getting out in the field, and knowing your rifle. Yo guys, at MDK Fitness, our goal is to help you get prepared physically, mentally, and spiritually to go out in the field and hunt properly. So if you guys have more questions, just reach out, I'll respond, and I'll get back to you.